Welcome to part 2. So, one of the things we really need to look at is that being in a state of love or peace or coming from your true self does not involve being against anything. So, as a society, most people are often against something. We have political parties that are against each other. We've got laws that some people agree with, some people don't. There's just a lot of conflict and divisiveness within societies. And then we've got wars, so that's between different countries, or civil wars within the same country. And what happens is the ego, as I told you, wants to be in control, and the collective ego wants to be in control. So you have a group of people in most societies, including in the US, that has power and they want to keep it. And those that don't have power want to have it. We all want to feel like we have some control over our lives. So that's understandable. But how do we create equality and opportunity for everyone when we live within this collective ego that is constantly fighting? So we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, and you can see this so clearly even within the pandemic. You see people that think everyone should wear a mask, no one should wear a mask, and those that think we're all gonna die, those that think it's no big deal, and how everyone fights instead of recognizing that we have different opinions and how can we create the best situation for the most people. So our greatest leaders, I think, are able to come from a place of love or peace rather than that place of conflict and power and hate that is part of the ego self. So when you look at Gandhi, you look at Martin Luther King, some of the greatest leaders that we've had and the greatest teachers, Buddha, Jesus, they're coming from a state of peace and they don't leave anybody out of that. So if it is coming from a place of love, no one is excluded. And as soon as someone is excluded, then you know that it's not coming from a place of love, it's coming from a place of judgment. So that means that you deserve it, you don't. And that isn't coming from a state of love. So what do we do with the world and what's going on right now and all of the inequality? Well, we can work to create change, and we can do it by being for peace, for equality, for justice, and not having to be against. And that's what Mother Teresa did. She said, I don't march against war because I'm not against war, I'm for peace. So she was an example. She was Catholic. That didn't stop her from loving everyone. So it doesn't matter what religion you are. When you're coming from a state of love, that goes to everyone. So as a society, we are living within a collective ego that fights and is divisive. And it is because people think that they're right. So in order to keep the status quo or hang on to your power, then you have to think you're right and why you deserve it and somebody else doesn't. So that's how that is maintained. So in your own life, if you recognize the need to be right, and then you recognize, wow, but that other person thinks they're just as right as you think you are. Maybe we're both right, maybe we're both wrong. So you can get off of right and wrong. And you have a great opportunity right now with a pandemic going on to really work on that. To not make people wrong who think differently than you, but to recognize that they just don't understand, or they could be coming from fear. Because a lot of times people that are violent, people that are angry and hurtful are coming from fear. So again, you can work toward change. You don't want to have to hurt anyone or go against anyone. You can create change by being for love and peace. And that energy that you are putting out when you're coming from that place has an impact on other people. So I talked about in one of the intro videos that to make change, to make any kind of social change, you just need one person. One person starts it going. So as a class, we have the opportunity to make lots of change here. And so you need to do what you think is right to make change. And you have to understand not everyone will agree with you, and that's okay. They have to do what they think is right. And we have to be understanding when what we think is right is different from what others think is right. So really good practice, because the ego will always judge. You're going to constantly be judging yourself, constantly judging other people. And the way out of that is just to notice it and just don't believe it. So that's the best way to get out of that. Just don't believe your thoughts. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. Question everything. That's what I love about college, is that you're educating yourselves. You can question everything and find your own answers. So everything I'm telling you, I want you to test out yourselves. I don't want you to take my word for it. This is just what I've learned through some of the greatest teachers, spiritual teachers, psychologists, different people from all walks of life. And then I try it out in my own life. And that's how you know if something's true. You try it out. And if it's true, it's always true. If it's not true, then you'll know. So I will always welcome your opinions and you finding your own answers. So I just encourage you to recognize that the ego self can never be happy. So as a society, will we get to a place where there isn't divisiveness and conflict? Probably not. I would hope so, but I don't think so, because that's what the ego does. It divides and it conquers. So notice how you divide and conquer within your own life. That's really important, because everything we do within ourselves is also reflected out into society. So that's how we help create the change that we want to see in the world. Okay, so I will be going on to relationships in the next section, but right now I want you to look at what bothers you the most. Like, who do you think is the most wrong in society, in your own life, and how does it make you feel? And is there another way to look at it that would be helpful for you to be at peace? Is there a way to look at it with love? And that might mean, like, what does that mean? What do you do with that? So if it's a person in your life, how would you do that? Is it setting a boundary? Is it leaving a relationship? What would be the most loving thing for yourself and that other person? So keep in mind, it doesn't help other people if you allow them to mistreat you. So where do you feel the most right? And what can you do to change that dynamic so that you're coming from a place of love instead of being right? And what do you see in society? Like, what bothers you the most in society? What's the thing you would most want to change? What do you think is most wrong about America? Pick one thing. What do you think is most wrong? And how can that be changed through love? All right, there's your questions.